Hello there. They call me Mystery. Now, what if I told you that everything that you know about money was wrong? Money is not natural for humans. It's not a logical step up from bartering, like they tell you in economic textbooks. Humans don't trade 20 chickens for one cow and then think, wow, I wish there was an easier way of doing this. That is a hypothetical situation only. We don't live in a thought experiment. In the real world, money, cash money, comes from one thing only: war. Let me explain. It's common knowledge for us to think that the type of money we use today has always been around and forever will be. How else would humans engage in daily transactions and commerce, which helps everybody get what they need? Well, the truth of the matter is that this logic is completely unfounded historically. Cash money is not some natural feature humans develop. For most of human history, people relied on credit, in the sense that people would take what they need up front and then pay it back on agreement. For simple transactions between neighbors to loans from the state, humans worked on credit systems for longer than they have ever needed cash to act as a medium in exchange. The idea of interest has its origins in credit. It was not a way of making money on top of a loan, but it was a defined share of the profit that merchants made after selling off some state-loaned goods. Interest simply ensured a return despite the merchant's circumstances, because, hey, could you really trust a merchant to give you a fair share in their profits anyway? In fact, you could say that money was first invented like this, an accounting measure that was used to record debt. This was recorded on sticks with notches or inscribed on clay tablets, and debt was cancelled out by literally destroying those items. Money is itself debt, a promise to pay someone something back. And cash money, a currency that holds its own value or represents a value, is an adaptation of this system. Modern banking works this way, loaning out debt. So money is this overarching term encapsulating so much. So it's important to note that what we are used to today when we talk about money is cash, which started as coins, a universal equivalent that can be used to exchange any good or service because it can be compared to anything. Now, the origin of cash is from war. Historically speaking, when societies became large enough, empire-building ones, with standing armies, cash money first came into existence. Originally, a conquering army would loot the vanquished and take their precious metals as compensation. Standing armies, a group of men whose sole occupation was being a soldier, created entire ecosystems with their presence that would become what we call today the market. In and around armies, merchants and service providers would tag along and set up shop, and wherever it moved, it needed supplies. They would then use portions of their loot as payment to local populations. Hence why I said earlier, war created money like we know it, but also it created markets. Now, this will come as a huge surprise to some, especially those hardened advocates of the free market. People who love to say things like, ooh, capitalism has always been around. Humans use money as naturally as the air that they breathe. There's always been markets. Wrong. Markets with cash did not originate across the world unless there was war and standing armies. It was governments and bureaucrats who perfected it. They saw cash and these markets as an opportunity to control their people better. Make cash state regulated, mint your own coins, and control markets by making laws that bind them, and you can have money in circulation that is paid to your soldiers to keep the army going, and they will then pour that cash back into state-ruled markets and pay for things to the people of your lands who you will then tax. The cash monetary system pays for itself, literally. Therefore, the greatest myth of the modern world is the idea that humans have bartered with one another till they decided one day that there was a better way of doing things, and poof, money was used by all. And then markets have existed ever since, as humans naturally needed to exchange things like the little calculators they are. Busted! War and the state made these things necessary, and nothing is different today. It's interesting, really, because there is this massive fantasy framed in the argument that there are only two ways of organizing societies in the modern world. You have those based on free markets and limited government intervention, and those based on planned economies and government control. Think US capitalism versus communist and Soviet Russia, the free market versus state control. But the reality is that markets were only ever created as the result of the state's actions. The incredible irony is that you can't split the two. Free markets need governments, and governments need markets. Modern economic thinking is just one big world of fantasy. Everything that we think is logical and natural is based on lies that hide much needed improvement. Now, if you thought that was interesting, give it a like, leave a comment, and share it with someone who should hear this. And subscribe for more. There is much to learn before we can unlock the revolution. Remember, I am, you are, we are a mystery.